Understanding Office 365 Exchange Models. By the time you're done here, you will understand the Exchange models that exist and the Office 365 migration methods. All right, you know what Microsoft Exchange is all about. And at this point in your journey, you likely know the ways that you can run Exchange. You could go the all cloud method, and that's where you sign up for an Office 365 account and allow Microsoft on their servers behind the scenes to maintain your Exchange environment. In a massive way, this takes off the burden of upgrading and patching and a lot of the troubleshooting and backups and all the stuff that it takes to support an Exchange server. That's why Microsoft released the whole Office 365 package in the first place. The other model of Exchange is on-premise. That's where you run your own servers to support the Exchange environment. You handle all the management, backups, monitoring, patching, support, etc., of those servers. And something I didn't even mention, you pay the licensing to run those servers as well. The last model is the ultimate compromise, the hybrid. That's where you choose to stand with one foot on each side of the line, gaining the benefits of cloud while still providing you the option to run Exchange on your own servers. I'll talk about some of the reasons you might want to have a hybrid environment long term in just a moment. But before I do, let's talk about how we can move our on-premise email accounts into Exchange. Now, it could be coming from Exchange to Exchange, or it could be coming from some other email server into Office 365 Exchange. The first one is the dream, the cutover migration, to where one evening you say, I'm going to move all the email accounts from the on-premise server into the online Exchange environment, and all my users wake up the next morning and go, wow, wasn't that nice? Look at this. We're in Office 365. Ooh. But in reality, that dream can often become a nightmare if you take on too much at the same time. Remember, moving the accounts is actually the easy process. It's going to everybody's smartphones and tablets and laptops and setting up new Outlook profiles and what happened to my automatic signature and wait a sec, it didn't look like this before. You know what I mean, right? And that's why Microsoft says, this is only appropriate if you have 150 users or less that you're doing at a time. And I would say even that's pretty aggressive. Otherwise, they suggest a staged or a hybrid environment. The difference between the two is really the mentality. A staged is just doing a cutover multiple times. You just take a few batches of users, let's just say 150 per evening, and you're moving them over until all the users are gone, and then boom, this cluster over here goes away because there's no users left. Whereas a hybrid says, hey, we're going to move some users over, but we're probably going to keep these guys active for a longer term. Now, in a lot of documentation, you'll see staged mentioned with Exchange 2003 and Exchange 2007. And that's just because there's no way that you can run a true hybrid environment between an Exchange 2003 and 2007 world and Office 365. You can allow them to interoperate, but a lot of the features just don't work. So that's why you're going to quickly stage them and move them off of that cluster. Whereas a hybrid, which is appropriate for Exchange 2010 and above, you can have long-term operation between the on-site cluster and Office 365. I'm happy to announce Microsoft also offers an IMAP migration. Meaning, let's say you have some non-Exchange email system over here. Maybe it's running on cPanel or ISP config. These are just some front-end Linux instances that you see a lot of time in hosting companies like Bluehost or GoDaddy, or there's hundreds of others out there. Well, all of those providers support POP3 and IMAP. These are client protocols that your email client can use to suck email out of the email server and display it in whatever email client you're using. Outlook, Mozilla Thunderbird, Apple Mail, whatever. The way an IMAP migration works is Office 365 poses as an IMAP client to those email servers, authenticates as a user, and then grabs its straw and sucks all the email out. The reason I love this is because back when I first did an Office 365 migration, this didn't exist. I actually had to go download this Linux server and spin up an open source IMAP migrator that stood in the middle, and I got it to work, but it took me days to figure out all of the glue to hold the whole migration together. Now it's a native feature. This last one is pretty awesome. Office 365 Import. It allows you to upload PST files, which a lot of people can go to Exchange and convert all of the mailboxes to PST files. It's just a couple PowerShell commands. Or if you have that POP3 environment, Outlook automatically creates PST files for that. You can just upload them and Office 365 turns them into mailboxes. Now let's imagine you've got terabytes and terabytes worth of PST files. That upload may take forever. Microsoft also allows you to mail a hard drive. Seriously, just grab some USB drives with a couple terabytes of data, copy it all over, and stick it in the mail. There's also a whole bunch of third-party services out there. One that I've used, and probably one of the most famous, is one called MigrationWiz. They're acquired by a company called BitTitan, but it's still a solid solution. You'll usually pay per account, but literally they'll translate from any email server to any other email server. And whoever put this system together is good. And I say that only because I tried to negotiate with them. When I first started using them, I called and I'm like, well, can you give me a couple dollars off per account? And they were like, no. I even tried I guess I'm just going to do this myself then. I'll just build my own thing. And the salesperson just turned around on the phone. They go, well, if you've got the time to spend, good luck with that. It made me kind of mad at first, but after using them a couple times, I'm like, yeah, this is so much easier than building my own little Linux world and trying to migrate mailboxes via open source. Now that we've seen the methods and the models around Exchange migrations, let's talk about the specific migration we're going to do in this module. The focus is on my company, Via, which is a consulting company I created about 8 years ago. And we have a few thousand mailboxes. I think we're in the range of 5,000, sitting in a private cloud, which really just means it's a data center with a whole bunch of Exchange servers sitting in it, where we are managing everything ourselves. Now we, meaning Via itself, the IT consulting company, will act as the alpha migration into Office 365 Exchange. That's because I really want to forge the way before we start moving our customers over, and I want to have a solid, repeatable process around it. Now, this is a perfect place for the hybrid model to be used. I mentioned just a moment ago that I would tell you reasons that you should run a hybrid, and we are one of them. First off, we have clients in here that don't trust the public cloud. I'm not even going to get into that discussion, but there are lots of people out there that are like, I don't know, Google creeps me out a little bit. Microsoft, I don't know if I want my email with them. I trust you, Jeremy. I trust you, Via, because I know you. You have a face. You've taken me to your data center. I've touched your servers. I can see it and know that my email is on there and I know it's secure. Now, those customers are going to have to pay a little bit more because the licensing plus all the maintenance and support and upgrades and everything else that we have to do to maintain that private cloud is more, but they're usually okay with that. Regardless, once we've got that connection over to the Office 365 cloud, for the customers that want to move over now or in the future, or even just want to move a few accounts over, it's totally possible and totally easy once you've built the bridge. Now, in the previous module, we established our Office 365 account. We cleaned up our Active Directory, ported all our users to a new domain using ADMT, and then the key piece, set up a federation with Office 365. That's where all of these user accounts come from. You can see over here on the right-hand side, they are synced with Active Directory. There's a federation that exists between them, which is essential to have in place before you build your Exchange hybrid environment. If you're not familiar with setting up a federation, I'd really encourage you to check out that previous module first, then dive back into the Exchange migration. It's this synchronization that becomes the lifeblood of your hybrid environment and allows your users to be available in Office 365 whether you license them or not. That's the beauty. They all show up here, but you choose which ones are going to use an Office 365 license and which ones you'll still host on site. So at this point, you now understand the Exchange models and the Office 365 email migration methods. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.